Imagine buying a brand new SUV today and finding out 2 years later that the company behind it no longer exists. No dealer support, no warranty coverage, and a resale value that's dropped faster than a stone. It's not science fiction. It's happening right now. Today, we're counting down 7 car brands that are collapsing in 2026, and the #1 brand on this list will shock you because they're still selling strong despite being in crisis. If you own one of these vehicles or you're thinking about buying one, this video could save you thousands. So let's get started. Genesis. Starting at number 7, we have a brand that promised German luxury without the German price tag, but ended up being a cautionary tale about brand identity. Genesis. Hyundai launched Genesis as their luxury division to compete with the giants, BMW, Mercedes, and Lexus. The blueprint looked flawless on paper, breathtaking design, premium materials, and cutting-edge tech, all at a significant discount compared to the Europeans. But here is the hard truth of the luxury market. High-end buyers aren't looking for a deal, they're buying status. That's where Genesis has hit a brick wall. Despite the beautiful quilted leather and smooth rides, the public perception hasn't shifted. Many still see it as a dressed-up Hyundai. The sales data reflects this struggle. Last year, Genesis moved roughly 75,000 units in the US. Well, that sounds okay in a vacuum. It's a drop in the bucket compared to BMW's 371,000 units or Lexus's 346,000. Genesis isn't just trailing, it's not even in the same conversation. To make matters worse, the ownership experience has been a mess. For years, Genesis buyers were forced to service their $70,000 G90s at the same service desks as $20,000 Elantras. That lack of exclusivity killed the prestige instantly. Then came the mechanical failures. Massive recalls for fuel pump issues, where cars simply stalled at highway speeds, shook the brand's foundation. Their EV transition, once hailed as their saving grace, is also stumbling. The electric G80 has already been pulled, and rumors are swirling that the G70 and electric GV70 are on the chopping block. With rising prices due to import tariffs and a shrinking lineup, Genesis owners face a grim reality: rapidly plummeting resale values and a dealer network that feels more like a budget brand than a luxury powerhouse. If you're looking for a long-term investment, Genesis is currently a massive gamble. Jaguar. At number 6, we have a brand that was once the definition of British grace and power: Jaguar. There was a time when the leaping cat stood for something visceral, elegant sedans and roaring sports cars that turned heads everywhere. Today, Jaguar is a ghost of its former self. As we enter 2026, Jaguar has virtually cleared out its entire showroom. The XE, XF, F-Type, I-Pace, and E-Pace have all been axed. That leaves the F-Pace SUV as the sole survivor in a brand that used to define the sports sedan category. The company is betting the entire farm on an all-electric pivot, but those new models aren't ready for prime time. This has left Jaguar dealers with empty showrooms and nothing to sell to loyal customers right now. The sales collapse has made the brand nearly irrelevant in the global market. But the final nail in the coffin might be the recent rebrand. Jaguar replaced its iconic logo and heritage with a modernized corporate look that alienated its core fanbase. The backlash was so severe that the CEO stepped down just months after the rollout. Jaguar has also never conquered their reputation for poor reliability. RepairPal ranks them near the bottom of the barrel, 29th out of 32 brands. With dealerships closing and the brand currently being subsidized entirely by the success of Land Rover, Jaguar is on life support. Unless their 2026 EVs are literal miracles on wheels, the brand is likely to fade into the history books. Buying one now means bracing for a total lack of support and a resale value that won't survive the decade. Mitsubishi. Coming in at number 5 is a brand that once dominated the world of rallying: Mitsubishi. In the early 2000s, Mitsubishi was a powerhouse, selling nearly 345,000 vehicles annually in the US alone. Today, that number has cratered to just 86,000. The 2025 tariffs were the tipping point. With thousands of vehicles stranded at ports, Mitsubishi was forced to pass those costs on to the consumer. For a brand that relies almost entirely on value-conscious buyers, those price hikes were a death sentence. Their current lineup is a collection of aging crossovers that are consistently outperformed by almost every rival in the segment. Beyond the lack of innovation, Mitsubishi is still haunted by its history of corporate dishonesty. In 2000, they were caught covering up mechanical defects, and in 2016, they admitted to falsifying fuel economy data for hundreds of thousands of vehicles. This shattered consumer trust and sent their market value into a freefall, forcing Nissan to buy a controlling stake just to prevent a total bankruptcy. Today, Mitsubishi feels like a brand without a soul. They've abandoned their performance heritage and are struggling to find a reason to exist. If you buy a Mitsubishi today, you are buying into a brand that is effectively a subsidiary of a struggling Nissan. Infiniti. At number 4, we have Infiniti, a brand that was once the driver's choice for Japanese luxury. There was a time when Infiniti was a legitimate threat to BMW. Models like the G35 and the FX series had attitude, power, and a loyal following that rivaled Lexus. Today, Infiniti is a ghost of its former self. In 2017, they were selling 153,000 vehicles annually in the US. By 2024, that number plummeted to 58,000, a staggering 10% drop in just 1 year. To save costs, the brand has been forced to shut down standalone showrooms and retreat into Nissan dealerships. This move has completely erased the luxury distinction, making the brand feel like a trim level rather than a premium manufacturer. The product lineup is equally concerning. The Q50, QX50, and QX55 have all been phased out, leaving the brand with only 2 real options, the QX60 and the QX80. While these are decent SUVs, they are competing in a market saturated with better options. Reliability has also taken a hit. Earlier models were haunted by CVT transmission failures, and recent years have seen major recalls for engine failures and faulty brakes. Infiniti tried to reinvent itself as a tech-first brand, but in the process, they lost the performance edge that made them special. Now they're stuck in no man's land, between budget cars and true luxury. If you're looking for a vehicle that will hold its value for the next 5 years, Infiniti is one of the riskiest bets you can make. Chrysler. At number 3, we have Chrysler. It's hard to overstate how far this American icon has fallen. This is the brand that practically invented the minivan and defined luxury for the American middle class. In 2005, Chrysler was moving over 640,000 vehicles a year. In 2024, that number fell below 125,000. The problem is simple. Chrysler has nothing to sell. For years, they survived by refreshing the same aging platforms, while the rest of the world moved on. The Chrysler 300, the last true sedan in their lineup, was finally put to rest in 2023. That leaves only the Pacifica minivan to carry the entire weight of the brand. And while the Pacifica is a solid vehicle, it's losing the war to more reliable and modern rivals like the Toyota Sienna and Kia Carnival. The internal outlook is even bleaker. Stellantis, Chrysler's parent company, canceled the Airflow EV project because it was deemed too expensive and already outdated before it even hit the streets. Former Stellantis CEO Carlos Tarvis issued a blunt warning: any brand that isn't profitable will be cut. Chrysler is at the top of that list. With a collapsing dealer network and a parent company that seems more interested in their European brands, Chrysler is a brand on the brink of extinction. Buying a Chrysler today means you are likely purchasing a vehicle from a company that won't exist in its current form by 2027. You'll be left with a vehicle that has zero resale value and a parts supply chain that could dry up overnight. Volkswagen. Coming in at number 2 is a name that will shock many: Volkswagen. Most people assume VW is too big to fail, but the cracks in the foundation are becoming impossible to ignore. For the first time in its history, Volkswagen is planning to close multiple factories in its home country of Germany. The company is currently drowning in debt and facing a brutal restructuring. When an automaker starts laying off tens of thousands of workers and slashing development budgets, it's not just a rough patch, it's a systemic crisis. Volkswagen's aggressive push into EVs with the ID series has been a commercial and technical disaster. These cars launched with massive software bugs, laggy interfaces, and underwhelming range, all while Chinese manufacturers began eating Volkswagen's lunch in the global market. What does this mean for you? If Volkswagen continues to struggle with its EV transition, its focus will shift entirely towards survival and cost-cutting. This often leads to a decline in build quality, part availability, and warranty support. We're already seeing resale values for the ID series soften significantly as buyers become wary of the brand's future. Volkswagen isn't going to vanish tomorrow, but the brand you knew 10 years ago is gone. The current trajectory suggests a company that will be significantly smaller and less reliable in the years to come. If you're looking at a VW, especially one of their EVs, you need to ask yourself if you're comfortable being a test pilot for a company in the middle of a historic meltdown. Nissan. And finally, the brand that takes the number 1 spot, Nissan. On the surface, Nissan looks like a titan. They sold over 865,000 vehicles in the US last year, which sounds like a success story. But behind the scenes, Nissan is facing a total existential crisis. The numbers are terrifying. Globally, Nissan reported a loss of $4.5 billion, with operating profits crashing by 90% in a single year. Their global sales have plummeted from nearly 6 million units in 2017 to just 3.3 million today. This isn't just a sales dip, it's a collapse. Nissan has been forced to lay off 20,000 employees and shut down multiple manufacturing plants. Their EV strategy is in shambles. They recently killed the Ariya EV and canceled several upcoming electric projects, leaving them with no clear path forward in a rapidly changing market. The roots of this crisis go back to the 2018 arrest of former CEO Carlos Ghosn, which triggered years of corporate infighting and a breakdown in trust with their partners at Renault. This was followed by a string of emissions and fuel economy scandals that further tarnished the brand. In 2024, Nissan tried to save itself through a merger with Honda, but the deal fell through when Honda realized just how deep Nissan's problems were. Internal sources now suggest that Nissan has only 12 to 14 months of survival time left, unless they find a major investor or a new lifeline. Buying a Nissan today is a massive long-term risk. If the company undergoes a radical bankruptcy or restructuring, owners will be the first to suffer. Resale values will crater, and the peace of mind that usually comes with a major brand will vanish. Nissan was once a symbol of Japanese engineering excellence, but today it is a brand fighting for its very life. So there you have it. 7 car brands collapsing in 2026. Whether it's scandals, corporate mismanagement, or simply losing to the competition, these brands are struggling and owners are feeling the impact. If you're considering a vehicle from any of these brands, do your research and think long-term. The car you choose shouldn't become a financial burden. Which brand on this list shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video helped you avoid a bad purchase, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.